So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our 10th webinar. I'm speaking to you from Essex, New York, the world headquarters of CFES. And I've been in this building, this headquarter called home, for the last 10 weeks. And Greg, we don't have Dallas weather yet. We're hoping that we will have it soon. But today is a special day for CFES that have Greg Muccio lead a discussion on the essential skills. And if there's someone who embodies those essential skills more than Greg, I haven't met that person. And if there's an organization, a corporation that does a better job of embodying the essential skills than Southwest, I don't know what that organization is. So, Greg, thank you so much for being here. And I wondered if you would start us off by just talking about the essential skills and sort of what they mean to you personally and professionally, and we'll take it from there. But once again, Greg, thank you for being here. We are just so honored and so delighted to be partnering with you and to have you as a friend personally and as a friend of CFES, and to have this wonderful relationship with Southwest Airlines. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It's our pleasure. And I think we were supposed to be there in person at this point in time in plans, and so I'm sure it would have been gray skies and stuff for my visit. But yeah, super excited to be that and love the partnership. I think we knew the very first time we got to chat what a connection that there was between the two organizations and what we value, and just absolutely love the concept and everything about the essential skills, and really, both personally, professionally from a perspective of Southwest, it's what we were founded on. And we've talked about this before, but our beginning mantra was hire for attitude, train for skill. And that was just across the board. And it had nothing to do with, being a flight attendant or a customer service agent, in the airline business and the customer service business is a hard job. But what we knew is we could train people to do those tactical elements of it, or a computer program or whatever those things were. But that attitude piece was just something that someone had, that was the price of admission, I guess is a way to say it. And we haven't really backed off of that. And it's actually morphed, and we'll get into that a little bit later, and more complex and more granular, but it is what my team hires for personally. It's what we look for in every candidate, and how it manifests itself. And those are, while we have plenty of roles that do require skill sets, whether they're technical in some nature or previous experience doing, that task or that function, irregardless of that, they're not allowed in the door. And then for me personally, I think I've mentioned this before. I am blessed. I love my job. I am blessed to be the head of talent acquisition for a Fortune 10 company, iconic and all these things. And I've been there for 19 years, and I lead an amazing team. And the reason that I'm in my role has nothing to do with what's in here. It's more about what's in here, and it's really about the essential skills, because I didn't study HR. I didn't do any of those things. I actually fell into it, 10, 12 years into my career, and just luckily it excelled. But that's what it means to me kind of personally from that perspective.
Thanks, Greg. So how do we, I know we can train for skills, but how do we train, and especially train young people to develop the essential skills? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it is. I think some of the things when you begin, I like to look at some of the essential skills. Right, is if you thought of them as a muscle, and if you want to grow or strengthen any muscle in your body, you have to work at it, and you have to exercise it, and you have to do things. And to me, when you begin to think of the essential skills, a lot of them have to do with that. A lot of them have to do to being exposed to things, having the opportunity to repeatedly practice it, to learn them, to fail them, and those kind of things. And so I think, the early on that you can, help teach folks and instill, because there a lot of them are things that's like, well, gee, that's just a value. You're right, but there's a ton of people that don't have them, and certainly don't bring them all the way through their life into their workplace. And so instilling that early, I think, one of the ones that is one of my favorites is around teamwork. And so, you can't learn teamwork if you're not on teams. It's just really hard. And so, whether it's getting involved in sports or, projects, I mean, to me, in the schooling environment, to me, half of the projects or work that they should do should be done in some sort of team environment, because that's what work is. I mean, there's very few things that or very few roles that are just like, hey, this person just goes and sits at a desk by themselves, does not interact with other people, and just does that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. And then I think what it's really important for teachers and parents and alike, and you guys do such a great job in giving tools for this, but you've got to recognize it when it happens. You've got to reinforce it. You've got to show them that and help them understand that maybe there's success in that, and tie it to what that is, because that's what you want them to repeat. It's not that, oh, hey, I got a good grade, or I did this really well. That's not what you're celebrating. It's really, what is the core thing that caused them to do that? And typically you're going to be able to tie it to some form or some type of essential skill.
So the teamwork piece, and of course, this is what Southwest is all about. It's what you're all about in terms of your wonderful team. What have you learned in your 19 years in training people to be better team members? What can we do to do this better? Because it is so important, and there's really been a transformation in learning. We used to years ago sit at our own desk, and now we sit with others with of course, social distancing at their desk.
Right.
How do we do that? How do we?
Yeah. No. Yeah. I think, like I said, I think, and we mentioned, just for context as well, I have a 12-year-old daughter that's about to finish 7th grade, and so one of my favorite things is if she's on a project or whatever, because, whether it's talking about her contribution level, or, she's typically like, oh, this person, hasn't done their part or whatever. And so being able to talk through that. But we had a conversation the other day. I said, guess what? That's the rest of your life. Just FYI, like, unless you can go find something and be on an island by yourself, you are always going to have that. And you're going to have to be able to figure out a lot of things from, hey, extending people grace, being able to appreciate differences and what different folks bring to the table. I mean, I will give you, I love to use a lot of analogies in sports ones, and one of the ones for me, and we'll just use football. I think everybody, based on the salaries of the athletes, the quarterback is considered the most valuable position. That's the highest paid on pretty much on every single team most of the time. Well, that's great. So then the logic necessarily might be, well, let me go get, 11 quarterbacks and roll them out on offense, and I should be, because they're the best. Well, no, I think we all know what would happen to that team. They'd get destroyed, right? Because you got to have folks that are going to block. You got to have folks that can step up and do things at different times. And that's just where I think that is so important. And that social skill, I mean, that's just where you see it. I think folks succeed. I am, Southwest as a whole is this way, but my team is, and my leaders, there's just, it's that teamwork is so key. And, it takes a lot of time, I think, to develop that. Because one of the things that it does kind of go against, right, is our ego and our desire to excel and our desire to put ourselves forward, and we're wired that way. But how you blend it in to be part of a team, I think, is really important.
Love that. How do we measure growth in any of these essential skills? We're looking to get better. We're looking to have our students, our employees, our members of our team get better. How do we measure their growth and their change and their development?
In essential skills across the board?
Or teamwork.
Teamwork, anything. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we do at Southwest, and you'll see this a lot in measurements from a lot of companies that are going to this, but we do quarterly check-ins with our folks, and that's just really a great way. And we have these things that are what we call living the Southwest way, which are really all about the essential skills, and that's kind of just part of the conversation. And I do think you have to understand that even folks that are great at it and do it really well will stumble from time to time, right? And so I think it is that ability to, like I said, across the board as often as you can and in real time. I think that's really, really key. I think one of the things, development in essential skills isn't something that you're going to pull up in a spreadsheet or necessarily even in a report card, right? And that's about real time feedback. And one of the things that we really emphasize a lot here at Southwest is like, hey, that isn't like, you don't wait 2 or 3 months for me to tell somebody how you do, how they're doing in this when you witness the situation, right? And you have an opportunity to be able to sit there and go, hey, I noticed how you reacted in that situation. And whether it's positive praise to reinforce or negative, that particular piece, I think that's really important. And I think it's also really important that it's, to me, from a teacher, student, parent, child piece is talking through the various essential skills and, hey, what do you want to be known for, right? Because then you begin to establish things about, hey, this is what I want. And as if I'm a student and you're the teacher, well, now we have a playing field that then allows you as the teacher that says, hey, Greg, you said you really want to improve in this area. I just want to let you know I've really seen that by what you did here and here and here, right? And not, it can't be, hey, I think you're really great at teamwork. Well, why do you say that? What is it about what they've done in a situation that you would say that? And then when someone stumbles from it, then the same thing. It's like, hey, Greg, I know you've said you want one of your biggest strengths or biggest attributes to be a great team player. When you did this yesterday or earlier today or whatever, do you see how that conflicted with what your desire is? And I think it's just really important to kind of make it personal to each and every student, because each and every one of them is different. They're not all gonna excel at every single one of them, and they're gonna hit different ones of them at different times throughout their growth process. It doesn't make one less important or more important than the other. It's just, that's just right how the world works. So
So I love what you're saying about make it personal, real-time feedback, and then the stumbling and the failing and how we deal with. I mean, that is such a real part of life and so important in terms of our own learning in whatever sphere. So what can you tell us in terms of working with our scholars and our colleagues about what to do when people stumble or when we stumble?
Right. And that's great. And I'll be honest, Rick, I would say, so at Southwest, we've had for a very long time, a really, I think, robust internship program. And we've also then morphed that into a high school one as well. And so really proud of a lot of things that were there. But I would say that is one of the areas consistently across the board that we see lacking in students that are coming both out of college and high school, is that ability to take feedback and do something with it. It is like you have, insulted their best friend or whatever it is. And certainly there are great ways to do it, but it's just like, man, there's just so many of them that just have been patted on their back for 12, for 18 to 20 years of their life that they don't realize. And it's just like, no, man, you're going to mess up far more than you're going to succeed. And so it's your ability to, first of all, persevere, which is an essential skill to do that. And frankly, the stumbling may not even be yours. Stuff happens. I don't know. There's this disease going on and everyone's sheltering in place. And there's a lot of things that you don't have access and you can't do. So how are you working through that? So there's all that sides of it, but that is one of the areas that I see a lot. And what it does, frankly, is it really inhibits the long-term growth for that, because when it gets to the workplace piece of it, I'm slammed and busy. And so there's a point in time that if when I'm giving feedback to make somebody better, like that's always the intent. The intent should never ever be right to try and hurt someone's feelings, to embarrass them or whatever, so we need to establish, there obviously has to be that trust piece that's established, that I'm giving to you this because it's for your best interest. But if that's become such a struggle to do, I'm going to stop doing it, which then that doesn't hurt me at all. It hurts you. Right. And I remember very fondly when I was in high school and was on the football team, and it was a week that I must have just been struggling or whatever, but I just felt like there wasn't much of my backside left with how much the coach was chewing it out. And I think he saw it on my face, saw frustration, and he literally pulled me aside and he goes, Mooch, you don't need to worry about how much I'm counseling you or criticizing you or trying to get you to make you better. You need to worry about when I stop, because that means I don't care about you getting better anymore. And that stuck with me since, the 11th and 12th grade. And I've used that before with my own folks and other folks, that it just says, that's when you need to worry. You don't need to worry about how many times I'm telling you how something could be a little bit better or how much more I would expect from you. You need to worry when I'm not doing that anymore.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Greg, at the outset, you talked about attitude, and attitude is in many ways the connector of all the essential skills and really so much of what we do. Would you define attitude as openness to criticism, a willingness to get better at developing the essential skills? What is attitude as it relates to the essential skills?
Yeah, so it's a lot of those things. I think it is, are you approachable, right? Because if you're not approachable, then that's once again that's hard. So, what are those particular pieces that are important to you there? I think there is a civility to people, right? That's really, really important. I think, this time right now is showing there is such, I mean, if, you could dive deep into the data, and I'm sure, some, college folks will do it, as well as some, of your professional service type organizations and consultants will do it. But I think there's a huge correlation. Adaptability is a huge one. And I know from our conversations and from things that I've seen, there are kids that March got sent home and had to start doing school virtually and online. And there are ones that have adapted to that really well and doing good. And there are others that are struggling. There's no difference in the workplace. There are people that we've been the same way. We were sent home because Dallas, where our base has been shelter in place. And so we basically sent everybody home, and for the same 2 months, because you, and we've had folks that have adapted really well and have actually been more productive, and we have others that are truly struggling to be able to do it. So I think all of those things are really, really important. And I think then one of the things that I put in, and it's really one of the first things I think for us, we've coded it as pride, but we've talked about it before. It's that work ethic. It's those kind of things. I gotta know that you're going to show up, and that you're going to show up and bring your A game. You cannot be talented enough, smart enough, whatever it is, and not show up. And it's and so that's, that's being able to play hurt. That's, hey, I love my job and I get excited every day that I come in. Every day that I come in, I'm not feeling like the greatest thing, but that I gotta lace it up, and I come in because people are counting on me. My team is counting on me. Southwest is counting on me. And to me, that's the number one thing that happens is, can I count on you? Are you showing up tomorrow? And are you going to be focused on the task that's at hand, whatever that is?
Wow. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, how about the backdrop of the coronavirus? And you've talked about that some already, but can you amplify that a little bit in terms of essential skills? Do we need them more today than we did 3 months ago?
Yeah, they have, in my opinion, pretty much surpassed, any technical skill that is out there. Because I think when you look around and what's happening, and then, our future has been changed forever, right? I mean, we need to know this, that whatever that date was in, February or the beginning of March that it really hit everybody and did that. There is the day before that and how life was. And then whenever this is over and we come out of it, and it's going to be, if somebody was able to sleep all the way through that, or was in a time capsule or something like that, they're going to come out and be like, where am I, and those kind of things. And I think when I look around, whether it's a leader in my company, outside of my company, in any of, in the government, in any way, shape, or form, there's nothing smart coming out of their mouth that's like, oh, look at that technical genius or that scientific genius. It's really about the essential skills. And so it is about, we're living dated. I mean, Southwest, we are on a, the airlines industry as a whole is getting hammered throughout this. And so we are literally on a day-to-day monitor and adapt. That's what Gary Kelly, our CEO, says. That's what I need every leader to be able to do. Monitor the situation and adapt. And the first 3 weeks when we were sent home and everything was certainly going crazy, literally, like, I could have a meeting in the morning and we decide things and begin the ball rolling. And by our meeting in the afternoon, that had all changed. And so, like, if you can't operate in that kind of space, you were, I hate to use the word useless, but you were not certainly helpful to the bigger cause. And that, and all the things that work with that, to me, are all essential skills. Because you got to be, you got to be able to have someone be able to come into my space and go, hey, Greg, I think you should do this, and vice versa. And egos have to get checked at the door, and it can't be my way, your way. And you got to come in every day. And we've had folks, that have been working, at 3 o'clock in the morning on the weekend because we've got to get something out and done. There's things that have to happen because people, and lots of people, are depending on it. And so there is nobody that I've been working with in the last 2 months that I'm just like, oh, wow, I'm so glad that they have that genius skill. It is all about utilizing their essential skills. And then what ends up happening is, because they have strength in their essential skills, if they have those skills in the other area, that's like, pouring gas on a fire, right? It's just, it makes those things better, and they're able to use more of it. So yeah, I think, I know when we come out of it and we start hiring again, it's going to be around some of the things that we've already mentioned. It's going to be around, because it's going to be a fight. We're in a, my company is in a fight right now for existence. We have people that are fighting personally for, their lives and their, and all that stuff. And you gotta have that grit. You gotta have courage. You gotta have integrity, honesty, teamwork, all those things that we talk about all the time. You've got to have that.
Greg, thank you. We have a question that has been asked of you, and I think that your football metaphor might have touched a nerve, because the first question is, Brian Flores, who preceded you on the webinar front, said that he motivates different players in different ways. Do you motivate your team members, each of them, in different ways?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, each person is an individual. I am sure teachers see that in a student. And so the worst thing I think that you could do is have a one size fit all. Now, I do think that, in the same kind of way, there is, for my team, there are certain goals, right? There is goals of how we are going to go do our what's important to us and what we've been asked to do. And there is the way to do that, right? So that's the end result kind of piece, but everyone's wired differently. And now you can still hold people accountable. The things that I talked to you about Southwest, I don't necessarily care if you don't want to do them all outside the door, but once you walk in the door, you have agreed to that this is how you are going to behave and act, and they're not negotiable. Now, they show up in different ways, and some people take a direct feedback approach. Others need to do, there's different ways in being able to do that. Absolutely. But I do think there are certain things, there's certain standards of behavior in a classroom that just are non-negotiable. It doesn't matter. Someone doesn't get to be mean to other students and get away with that. Now, how they're talked to might be different or whatever, but yeah, I think that's important as well.
Thank you, Greg. And this is our final question, and it is, how can I continue improving my interpersonal skills along with my technical skills, that is essential skills, amid this new style of working from home?
Yeah, what's interesting is that I think that some of the essential skills, because that we're working at home, have even become more on a forefront, right? Because if you look at it, I mean, I talk with my team, so we talk, communication is key. Well, now it's verbal, it's written, timeliness of it, because what I can't do right now is I can't walk by somebody's desk and say, hey, Rick, this or whatever, and then vice versa. They can't come by me. And so I have got to be a lot, and my leaders and my team has to be a lot more thoughtful about how we communicate, the style in doing it. For me, I have increased personally, like the transparency and the frequency of it, because I know I can't be there in person. And so how am I able to do that? And so I think some of those are even more critical because you don't have that time. And then you begin to get into some of the things because, if I'm on the phone, well, I don't see somebody's, body language. And so I've got to get sharper at, understanding voice context and how do I do things. And so I think it's a great, opportunity to do that. And the thing is that, we're even seeing it on the side, right? So I think, certainly, kids or folks with Apple or whatever, or with iPhones, FaceTime before, but I see that my daughter has 2 or 3 friends that she's not in school with, but she's doing it family. We did a big family Zoom call on Easter across all different things. And, that left a little bit to be desired, but it was still fun. But I mean, those are just even in that side of things. And so I think there's opportunity for you to continue to kind of develop that as well.
Greg, what an honor to spend time with you. And please know how much we appreciate, again, everything you have done for us and everyone in the CFES family, thousands of students, educators, members of the CFES team. Again, we appreciate your wisdom. We're honored to be partnering with you and with Southwest Airlines, and we wish you all the best, and we look forward to seeing you very, very soon.
Thank you, sir.
Greg.
Thanks for having me.
Bye now.